Okay, uh, for those who are first time using, just to share with you that this GoToMeeting, right, there's actually a chat, so you can type in your questions or anything that is unclear. You can type in your questions on the chat. Okay, then I will refer to that and answer your questions. And also we'll be recording this session so that after this, those who need some refresher, you can look back at this video again. All right, so we shall start. First thing is for those, we'll do a quick recap on how to trade the news, and then after that, we'll do the live trading at 9:30. Okay, so I'll go over to the calendar and show you what is the particular news that we will be trading today. Okay, so today is Friday, 12th January. So this is the one. We'll be trading the 9:30 US news. So you see that there's actually four US data: the US CPI, core CPI, core retail sales, and retail sales. So we'll be trading the 9:30 one. So now it's 9:08. So we have about 20 minutes to go through. Okay, so for those who actually joined not the first time trading the news, if you want to trade together, you can. For those who are first time, I would suggest that you probably want to take this as learning first. So meaning, if it's too rush for you, don't trade first, right? So just observe and then go through so that you understand how to do it first before we trade it. Okay, so a quick recap. This news trading is actually different technique, slightly different technique from the FSI system, which means that it's very particular and specific in certain guidelines and rule. Okay, quick recap is that news trading, what we are looking to capture is actually the immediate movement in price from the release of the high impact news. That means not all news can be traded. Okay, after this, I will send you this slide again so that you know what news particular can be traded. All right, they are all in this slide. So not all news can be traded, but only selected high impact news. Okay. Next thing is the checklist and guideline is to help you filter off those that is not ideal and you want the condition to be met before you trade. Okay, so different from FSI, the news trading time frame that we often use is mainly 4 hour and 1 hour. Okay, so we only look at these two time frame. The reason why we don't look at daily because the DS, the Davos box will be too wide. Once it trigger, it might not have enough strength for price to continue move. All right, so we want to trade H4, the 4 hour time frame and the 1 hour time frame. Okay, so this is the two time frame. The second thing you need to take note is that we want to look at the range of the DS. Okay, which means that it should not be too big or too small. The ideal condition for the Davos box to be is around 50 pips. Okay, so this one I want to highlight again is a guideline, not a rule, which means that if let's say the range of the DS is about 35 or 40, you can still consider that. Okay, it's just that it's not so ideal. If it's let's say 60, you can also consider that it's just not so ideal. All right, so the ideal is 50, and what you want is for price to be in the middle of this box. All right, so later I'll show you on the chart, live chart, you have a better idea. Okay, so this is very important, this second guideline. All right, so the third one is to check that the price for the past periods, which means that for some time price has been traveling sideways inside the DS box itself, which is what I mentioned. Ideal is price is in the middle of the range. Okay, so this one later I'll show you on the chart, it becomes clearer. Next is we would want to use the dashboard, okay, to help us place a buy or sell. Okay, we can either do a buy direction or a sell direction, or we can enter both, which means that we enter a buy order at the same time also enter a sell order. Okay, so news trading, we actually ignore FSI direction. Okay, but some of you actually mentioned last time that if you want to use FSI as a directional guide, also can, which means you only choose one direction instead of putting both buy and sell. Okay, so this one that is a guideline. There is no hard or fixed rule that you can only do one direction or you want to do both, right? It's something that you need to decide for yourself also. Okay, if you have other techniques to decide the direction, that means whether you only want to go for buy or you only want to go for sell, you can use that also to help on. Okay, to add on to this news trading. So once you have decided, let's say, okay, you want to trade the buy or you want to trade the sell or you want to do both, Next thing is you need to open up a new chart of the same pair, right? So for example, if later we want to trade euro dollar, okay, after we enter the order, we need to open up another new chart on euro dollar and load up the template, right? So the template here we are referring to is your FSI template. The reason is we want to load out the profit protection, the smart profit protection, the smiley face. Okay, so why we need this is so that when the news comes out and price starts to move in our direction, we will quickly have the smart profit protection check for us the condition, and if it's okay, it will shift our stop loss to protect our profit. Okay, in order to do that, we want this to actually be put onto a 1 minute time frame, which means that every minute the smart profit protection will actually look through the condition and help us to scan. If it fits the condition, it will help us to shift stop loss. Okay, so right now I'll go over to the chart to show you what I mean on all those things. Okay, that means the guideline I'll walk you through on a live chart. Okay, I'll pick Aussie dollar, right? So remember, the first thing is we are trading the US dollar, so we'll pull out all the US pair. Okay, so at the bottom here, you can see I have euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar yen, Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, dollar Canadian, and dollar franc. So total we have 7. Okay, the first step to do is to quickly filter off which pair that we cannot trade. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is you want to quickly load out the template. Okay, the important thing to take note for news trading, okay, you can ignore the FSI and other indicators. The more important thing to take note is your diverse box. Okay, and price must be at least inside it. Okay, so for example, right now, if I show you euro dollar, H4 time frame price is above the box, which means it's outside the box. Okay, then the next time frame we can look at is 1 hour. You realize that price is also outside the DS box. So in this case, right, euro dollar for today, this particular news, because price is outside the box, we can no longer trade the euro dollar. Okay, which means that euro dollar won't be a pair in my watch list. So I can actually close this particular chart because we won't be looking at it. Okay, so that is one quick way to filter. Okay, so I'll quickly do that. You realize that euro dollar is out of the DS box. Pound dollar, okay, both H4 and H1, you can see is also outside the DS box. So I also quickly close these two pair. Right, so euro dollar, pound dollar cannot trade. Dollar yen, okay, H4 is outside the box. H1 is also outside the box. Okay, so in this case, I will also ignore this, okay, because both is outside the box. I'll close this. Okay, Aussie dollar, you can see is in between for H4, so the price is in between the box, so we can keep this to analyze further. Same for New Zealand dollar, you can see that H4 price is in between the box, so we can keep this. Dollar Canadian, H4 in between, we can keep this. Dollar franc outside, so we also close this. Okay, so based on that quick filter, we actually left with 3 pairs only: Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, dollar Canadian. Okay, so with that, right now, what we'll do is we want to check, okay, for this, look at the range, which means the range of the box must be about 50. Okay, that's the ideal condition, yeah. So quick one, look at Aussie dollar. Okay, so a quick recap how to check the range. You want to use this tool called the crosshair. You pick from the top, you click and hold, drag it to the bottom. So you can see that there's 3 numbers there, 1/454/0.7859. Okay, the middle one, which is the 454, is the number of points. All right, so if it's 454, it's actually 45 pip. Okay, so this range actually fulfills that condition, very close to 50. Okay, so let's check New Zealand dollar also. Okay, same process, New Zealand dollar, drag from the top to the bottom. You can see the middle range is about 916. All right, so that is about 91 pip. Okay, this is slightly wide. So what we do is we quickly go down to 1 hour to see if this range is better, right? So again, same process, we check. The range is about 269, so that's about 26 pip. So 26, 27 is actually pretty tight. Okay, so it's not that we cannot trade this pair, it's just that it's not ideal. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll put it here first. Okay, because it's inside the box, we can consider, but not ideal. So I'll put it there. Quick one on dollar CAD, same process, we check. Okay, from top to bottom, you can see that the range is 8818. Alright, so it's about 81 pips. Okay, so 81 pips is slightly wide. Alright, because we want ideal is 50. I'll do a 1 hour check. Okay, 1 hour time frame check. Same thing, we look at this range, it becomes at 1 hour, it's 464, so it's about 46. So for dollar CAD is a good example to show you that between 4 hour and 1 hour, okay, 1 hour have a better ideal range compared to 4 hour. Okay, so for today, the two pair that we want to focus on is actually Aussie dollar and dollar Canadian, right? Because we have two pairs to look at it already. New Zealand dollar not the most ideal one. I would actually remove it for today, so I'll close it. Okay, so based on this second condition, all right, we have filtered down today to two currency pair, Aussie dollar and dollar CAD. Okay, one is on H4, one is on H1. Okay, the third thing to look at is price needs to be forming ideally in the middle of the box. Okay, so let's say this is a range of 50. Okay, so in the middle is somewhere around 25. You can look at now the price for Aussie dollar. Let me zoom in a little bit. The price of Aussie dollar is not ideally in the middle right now, but it's somewhere lower. Okay, so this is not too bad, right? But of course, it's not the most ideal condition. Okay, so you want to be aware of that. Same for dollar CAD. I'll zoom in a little bit. You can see that it's not really in the middle, but it's more tilted to the downside. Okay, lower, nearer to the lower boundary of the box. So again, it's not the most ideal condition. Okay, because of that, this tool is not the most ideal. We will just consider both for today as well. Okay, so that is both of this pair can be traded today. So this is the three things that is fulfilled. Next, you want to look at is decide, okay, use the dashboard, decide whether you want to buy, sell, or do both. Okay, so one thing about news trading is we'll never know what the actual data will be released, whether is it going to be good for the US or worse off for the US. No way we can know before it released. All right, so in this short burst, that means once the news is released, okay, we would want to capture either the strengthen of the US dollar or weaken. Okay, so if let's say we want to trade such that we want to buy the US dollar because we want to anticipate, okay, that the US data will be better, then we will sell the Aussie dollar, because when you sell Aussie dollar this pair, you're buying dollar. Okay, so if dollar strengthen, this one will go down. And if you're looking at dollar CAD, okay, you'll be buying the dollar CAD if you expect the dollar to strengthen. Okay, because if dollar strengthen, price will go up. Right, so vice versa, if you want to sell the dollar because you expect it to weaken, then you want to buy Aussie dollar, because if you buy this pair, dollar weaken, price goes up. And then this one for dollar CAD is you want to sell it if you expect dollar to weaken. Okay, so this is where you need to choose how you're gonna decide and trade it. Okay, some traders, for yourself, you want to rely on FSI as direction, you can. If you have other ways to decide your direction, you also can. Okay, so for me, very simple. I'll pick one of this pair. Okay, so I'll actually pick Aussie dollar, and I would, for today, this example live trade together, I'll base it on FSI. Okay, to pick my direction. So today FSI here shows that it's actually lower. Okay, so I'm interested in the sell direction. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll load up the template 1B. Okay, so 1B, wait for the dashboard. Okay, for this news, I'm interested to sell the Aussie dollar, which means that I'm expecting dollar to strengthen. Next, on this dashboard, check your risk. Okay, so this is where the process is the same as FSI. You need to ensure that you are comfortable with this risk. Okay, if let's say today you're gonna trade these two pairs together, okay, you need to take note of risk exposure, which means that if you risk 1% on Aussie dollar and you risk 1% on this dollar CAD trade, your risk exposure is 2%. Okay, so you need to be aware and comfortable with that as well. Okay, so for me, I'll do a 0.5% trade today. Okay, click refresh, and now I'll just key in sell stop order. Okay, so right now, zoom in a little bit, you can see the orders are in. Okay, I'll just leave it here and wait until 9:30. Okay, I would leave the dollar cat. Okay, let me just load the template to see where FSI is for dollar cat. Okay, so dollar cat based on FSI, okay, we are actually very close to where the fair value is. So that's the part where if let's say you want to use FSI for direction, then dollar cat doesn't show you that. So you can potentially on H1, if you want to trade this pair, you can trade both direction. Okay, both up or down. Right, so for me today, I will stick to one, which is Aussie dollar. I'll be taking on the short side. Okay? You don't have to follow me. Okay, for those who have been trading the news, this is not your first time. You can focus and type on yourself. Okay, you have about 7 minutes now. I will leave that 7 minutes for you guys to go and decide how you want to plan out to trade the news today. Okay, Clement asked a question whether we need to wait for the news first. Okay, we don't wait for the news to come out and then we put our orders, alright? What we are trading is, we are trading such that when the news release, we expect price to move and we want to trade that movement. Okay, so when news is released later at 9:30, okay, price might start to move too fast that you cannot enter. So what we do for news trading is we actually enter closer to the news, which means that the news is 9:30. About 10 minutes before the news, you can start to key in your orders. Alright. So I'll let you guys to key in those orders, alright, and at the same time, okay, I'll recap what this data means to us. Okay, on Forex Factory, you can see at the top there's 3 rows, yeah. Actual, forecast, previous. Okay, so today later on news has been released. The previous data is at the rightmost, right? You can see 0.4, 0.11, and 0.8. That is the previous data, which is last month data. The middle row is the forecast, right? It's at 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.5. The actual one will be released later at 9:30. So the idea here is, if let's say the actual data later released is all better than the forecast and better than previous, then we'll see the dollar strengthen. Very likelihood we'll see the dollar strengthen. If the opposite happen, which means that the actual data release is all worse off than the forecast and previous data, then we would likely see dollar weaken. Okay, if the data comes out very similar to forecast, then likely dollar will not move much. Okay, so later on, depending on how the data comes out and how price move, we will analyze again and see if you want to trade it. Okay, now that I've entered the Aussie dollar, the next step is I need to open up another Aussie dollar pair. Okay, and load the template. Make sure that the smiley face is there, smart profit protection is turned on, and I'll shift it to 1 minute chart. Okay, so this 1 minute chart is simply for smart profit protection. It's not for us to trade, yeah? So I'll just put this 1 minute chart here so that when this trade is triggered, okay, and the condition meets, that means price starts to move 30% towards my target, then the smart profit protection on the 1 minute chart will help me to shift my stop loss to protect my capital. Right, so that is the last step you need to do. Open a new chart on the pair that you're trading, load the template and put it to 1 minute. Alright. Okay. Ken, okay, so now you have about 4 minutes. Alright, I'll leave this time for you guys to key in your orders. Again, reminder to always take note of your risk exposure. Okay, that means if you are doing both the Aussie dollar and dollar CAD today, just take note that you need to adjust your risk accordingly. Okay. Okay, we have 1 more minute to the news. Okay, so the news is released. You can see the price is started to move. All right, so Aussie dollar has been triggered. You can see the price is moving down lower. Okay, so we might potentially see that the data might be good for US dollar. Okay, let me refresh them. Okay, so we see, oops. Okay, so we see generally, okay, CPI release 0.1, core CPI 0.3, core retail sales 0.4, retail sales 0.4. Okay, so you can see that there's some good, some green, some red. Okay, green basically means that is higher than the forecast. Red is actually lower than the forecast. Okay, so right now you see this data, right? They are actually not the clearest one because you have some. One of it is actually worse than the previous. Two of it is better than the forecast, and then one of it is the same as the forecast. Okay, because of this, you can see the price is not really very strong in moving in one direction. Okay, it's actually moving like a bit down and then now it comes back up and then it's just staying where it triggered. Okay, so in this case, okay, because it's not a very clear sign in terms of all is good data. Okay, so there's few things now that the trade is triggered, right? You need to decide what you want to do. Okay, so one is you want to leave the trade running, okay, because you already pre-planned for it. This is your risk. Okay, so what's the worst case is you just gonna get a stop loss if the worst case gonna happen, and you should be comfortable with that because you have pre-planned that this is a risk that you're comfortable taking. Okay, so first thing that you can decide is you want to leave this trade running. okay, and let the smart profit protection take care of it. Okay, second thing you want to take note of is if let's say you look at the data and you realize that it's not a very clear directional data, which means that it's not all good for US. Some are good, some are bad. You might want to decide that you want to get out with either a small profit or small loss or just at break even. Okay, so this is something that you can also decide to do, which means that it's basically not a very good event to trade. Okay, so for those who traded last Friday, no, the first Friday of the year, okay, you will actually see that experience what is a good data on the Canadian pair. Okay, so that is an example of what a good data is. The price movement should be very clear cut. Okay, so today you can see it's actually it's not very clear. Okay, so you want to decide that if you want to exit, to put it at break even or let it run. Okay, so something that you need to decide for yourself because each of us, our risk profile is very different. Okay, so when this like this happen, okay, so for me, for this trade, I'll just leave it. Okay, I'll just leave this pair for it to run. So it either gonna hit my stop loss or it goes according to my profit. Okay, so I'll just leave it over here for this. For those who traded dollar CAD, okay, you wouldn't have any trade trigger. Okay, so let me bring this back up. If you traded on dollar CAD, okay, you wouldn't have any trigger because it's still hovering in between the box. All right, so in this case, if I am the one having dollar CAD, I would cancel that order. Okay, I'll cancel that order. For Aussie dollar, I'll just leave it. Okay, so depending on what price is gonna do in a while, right? So for dollar CAD, I'll just cancel it. So this is again what I'm gonna do. You need to decide for yourself whether you want to hold it or you want to cancel it. Okay, so this event, okay, this particular event is not an ideal outcome. Okay, because the ideal outcome is very clear cut. The price should move in one direction strongly, right? So not all event you will get a very ideal and clear cut scenario when you start trading the news. Okay, so let me go back to the slide and share with you what are the particular news you want to take note that potentially can give you some good high impact on the price. Okay, for the dollar, we mainly trade the non-farm payroll NFP. All right, so this data usually released on first Friday of the month. Okay, there's some exception if let's say Friday is a US holiday, they might change the date. So if there's no exception, right? That means it's not holiday or there's no special event on that Friday. It's usually released on the first Friday of the month. Okay, the other two data on the US you can trade is core CPI and retail sales. This is the one that we are trading today. Okay, then that's about it for dollar. All right. There are other dollar economic data, but we don't really trade them because they are not gonna give us that huge movement in price. Okay. The next set of currency that you want to look at is the UK pound. Okay, so these are the four data that you want to look out for: services PMI, the CPI, the average earning index, and the official bank rate. Official bank rate is basically the interest rate, okay, for BOE, Bank of England. So these are the four data you can trade for UK pound. And then for the next one is Australia. Okay, Australia is this four data. Okay, mainly the retail sales, employment rate, CPI, and cash rate. Cash rate is your Australia interest rate, right? Which is your Reserve Bank of Australia interest rate. Then the other one, which is New Zealand, right? The very close related currency is New Zealand. We will recommend that you do not trade New Zealand. Okay, I repeat, do not trade the New Zealand risk event, which means that don't trade New Zealand news. Okay, the reason is very simple. When the New Zealand market is open, okay, liquidity is very low, which means that you might get a lot of slippage and spread will be very high. Okay, so it's not a good condition. It's not ideal for you to trade the news. Okay, so only focus on Australia if you want. Don't look at New Zealand. The last one, the currency to focus is your Canadian. Okay, so Canadian, you have four news again: unemployment rate, BOC rate statement. So this is your Bank of Canadian interest rate, and retail sales and core CPI. Okay, so you realize that Japan, we also don't trade it, simply because Japan news release, the time is always not accurate. Okay, so sometimes they postpone, sometimes they move it forward. Not ideal because the time is not specific. Very difficult for you to catch the news. Okay, so in terms of news trading, you have four currencies to focus on: dollar, UK pound, Australia, and Canadian. Where you can find all this data is all on Forex Factory. Okay, so go over to www.forexfactory.com and then click on this calendar tab. It will bring you to the event with all the dates and time. Okay, if you are first time logging into this, all right, make sure you create a free account and then click on this time. All right, so when you click on the time, it will bring you to this page. Make sure your time zone is selected to GMT plus 8. Okay, because we are in Singapore and Malaysia, right? It's all GMT plus 8. Okay, if you are not having this plus 8, then the time on the calendar would be different. So make sure that it's at plus 8. DST, just choose it as off and then click save setting. Once you do that, make sure that your synchronized time is exactly the same time as the current time that we have. All right, so this is actually synced to a computer. So you can see mine is 937. Now here is also 937. Then you can click on the calendar tab and then you look out for the events that you can trade based on this list here. Okay, so this is the end of this week here. You can see Friday. So let's look at a quick one on next week. Okay, so next week you realize that you have Tuesday, 5:30 in the evening. You have pound CPI. So this one you can trade it. Okay, so if you are available during that time, you can use the same technique to trade this 5:30 pound news. Okay, Wednesday don't have until 11 p.m. Okay, so that is where you have your Canadian BOC rate statement. So you can trade this as well. Right, so next week, Tuesday, you have pound. Wednesday, you have Canadian. Okay, Thursday, you have 8:30 a.m. Australia employment change unemployment rate. This one you can trade also. Okay, then all the way until Friday, 5:30 you have UK retail sales. This one you can also trade. Okay, so next week for news trading, you realize that actually every day you have one news. Tuesday, okay, Monday is holiday, so nothing. Tuesday you have 5:30 CPI in the UK. Wednesday you have 11 in the evening BOC. Thursday morning Australia, and Friday afternoon UK. Okay, so next week will be an active week to do news trading. I will be reminding some of you, and if I have the time, all right, I'll also be trading all this news. All right, then we can update each other on that. Okay, so other than that, let's go back to the chart and take a look. Okay, so you see that price is actually not moving much. Okay, so for me, let me zoom out a little bit to show you. For me, I decided to keep this simply because this direction is actually aligned with FSI. Okay, so I'll just leave it there. Okay, so let's see how it turned out for next week itself. Okay, because today Friday, I don't expect it to straight away go down like that. All right, because Friday usually in the evening, which means late US session. If you remember, okay, we say that Friday is actually a slow day, usually a slow day because people take their day off earlier in the US as well. All right, so that's about it for news trading. Okay, for those who have first time viewing this, I'm pretty sure there are some questions or certain things that are not clear for you. Okay, feel free to review this video again. Once it's uploaded, I'll share with you the link. And of course, if you have any questions after that, not clear because you're first time, do feel free to check with me. All right, so you know where you can reach me. Feel free to do that. If this is your second time or has been some time you have been trading the news, all right, hopefully this is another recap to share with you, a reminder and refresher of how we trade the news using the Davos box and the dashboard itself. All right, so that's all. We'll end the webinar. All right, so you realize that news trading, if you are familiar with this technique, it doesn't take a lot of time. Okay, you can see that we actually started at 9. But if you are familiar with the whole system, you don't really need more than 10 minutes give and take, all right, from trading this. Right, so I'll end off this session here. Right, once the video is uploaded, I'll share with you the link. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask us on the WhatsApp group, or you can PM me itself. All right, so have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you guys soon.